So today's theme is Fathers Matter, celebrating fatherhood and reimagining the role of dads in parenting. Now, today's conversation is both a celebration and a call to reflection. This is because around the world, wherever we may be, we've got people joining from Nigeria, various parts of the UK, and clearly other parts of the world as well. Fathers and father figures play an essential role, which, though often under-acknowledged, is critical for nurturing children, supporting families, and shaping healthier, more equitable communities. However, very often the conversations cast dads in very narrow roles. So very often it's about the father as the distant provider or the disciplinarian or the occasional helper. And if we even look at the statistics, we find it borne out there. So, for instance, there's a 2021 study from the UK, which actually shows that a large proportion of men do not seem to be taking part in caregiving, and that those who do spend only half as much time providing care compared to women in similar circumstances. And the gap is much larger when we take into account those men who do not even report providing any care at all. Against this backdrop, today's session is really about challenging these outdated frames because I am very sure that the fathers we have here today are hands-on, they're caregivers, they're nurturers, and they're all of those special qualities which we need in fathers to make parenting complete. And so we will be highlighting the diverse and evolving ways that fathers are showing up in their children's lives with presence, with care, with vulnerability, and with joy. We will explore the realities of modern fatherhood through a global lens with insights from our distinguished panelists. And so, whether you're a father, a parent to be, an educator, a family services professional, a researcher, or someone who just cares very deeply about family, please, this space is for you. Welcome. I'm sure you're itching to hear from our panelists, and so I'll introduce them and we will hear from them. I've got a set of questions for them. We'll hear from them. But whilst the conversation is going on, feel free to use the chats to put in your comments, your suggestions, and if you have a question, please use the Q&A. So you can type the question in the Q&A, and then the panelists can pick up those questions as we go along. Otherwise, we will have a dedicated session once we've gone through the set questions that I've got for the panelists, where we will take your questions directly. So feel free to just keep on, putting in your questions, putting in your comments, suggestions as the session proceeds. We want this to be as engaging as possible because I think our fathers are more than happy and ready to take all those questions, and they're very ably supported by an ally as well. So I'll start by introducing our panelists, and then we'll take it from there. So first we have Ralph Tayo Ibiyeye, who's a faith leader and is the leader of Power Connections Redeemed Christian Church of God. Ralph Tayo Ibiyeye is a seasoned minister, economist, and transformational leader with a proven track record of impacts across both spiritual and professional spheres. He currently serves as the pastor in charge of Power Connections Parish of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Leeds, United Kingdom. His mission is to equip individuals and communities for purposeful living through the Word of God and practical leadership. Pastor Ralph is especially passionate about mentoring and empowering young adults as well as youths, believing that the next generation must be spiritually grounded, intellectually equipped, and socially engaged. He holds a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria, and a master's degree in finance and business management from the University of Bedfordshire here in the United Kingdom. His professional journey includes roles in both public and private sectors, including a notable tenure at the Central Bank of Nigeria, where he also led the NYSC Corpus Fellowship. In addition to his pastoral and professional roles, Pastor Ralph is a mentor, speaker, and community builder. He is passionate about raising leaders, strengthening families, and fostering environments where faith and purpose intersect. And indeed, Pastor Ralph has been one of the parents on our Teens Academy here in Africanus. So welcome very much, and we look forward to hearing from you. Next, we have with us Errol Murray, who's a charity manager for Leeds Dads. Errol founded Leeds Dads, a charitable organization uniting a community of fathers for social interaction and support. His vision is to empower dads to actively engage in positive parenting, strengthen family bonds, and fostering confident father-child relationships. Through free soft play, breakfast clubs, meetups, walks, and forest schools, Errol's group reaches over 1,000 dads annually, particularly in areas of geographic deprivation. These activities offer essential parenting advice, friendship and well-being supports, addressing critical issues like family separation and suicide prevention. With over 7,000 followers on social media and active private groups on Facebook and WhatsApp, Leeds Dads provides a supportive network for over 650 dads seeking family support, child development guidance, and personal well-being resources monthly. Additionally, Errol serves as an NHS Perinatal Partners Peer Supporter, contributing to the well-being of families affected by the mom's mental health issues related to pregnancy. Welcome, Errol. We're also delighted to have with us Dr. Joshua Olaniyi Alabi, who's a Senior Special Advisor with Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA. Dr. Joshua Olaniyi Alabi is at the forefront of shaping environmental policies in his commitment to consistently translating complex research findings into comprehensible policy recommendations, contributing to DEFRA's mission of protecting our natural environment. He volunteers as a pastoral assistant in Winners Chapel International Leeds, where he serves in various leadership roles, which includes coordination of the corporate social responsibility projects such as Food Bank, tackling rough sleeping, and community collaboration and empowerment. Dr. Joshua volunteers with Africaners on Parenting with Purpose projects, and he is committed to working with families on reducing parental conflicts and creating conducive environments in homes for children's upbringing and harmonious family life. We're also delighted to have with us today our next panelist, Olalekan Odedeyi, who is a community advocate and social entrepreneur. Olalekan Odedeyi supports families as a Mackenzie Friends. He was born in Nigeria and developed Save the Woman after being interested in Millennium Development Goals 3, which seeks to promote gender equality and empower women. And now we have Sustainable Development Goals number 5, which also has a similar theme of gender equality. As a social entrepreneur, visionary leader, and a people's advocate, he has passion for fairness, gender equality, women's empowerment, and race equality. As a community advocate, Olalekan believes in the involvement of parents in the child's learning and development journey. Olalekan has had a number of voluntary roles over the past few years, including being a member of the Hate Crime Scrutiny Panel for the Crown Prosecution Service and also serving as a member of the Stop and Search Baying Scrutiny Panel for Cleveland Police. In addition to this, Olalekan, a former chair of the Middlesbrough Independent Advisory Group for Policing at Cleveland Police. He has a passion and has had this since the age of 8 years, helping the community wherever he has found himself, and has worked tirelessly for peace and justice of individuals and providing advocacy support to individuals and groups to ensure fairness and promote community cohesion. Finally, we have Ronke Olojade, a community leader and trainer for the Parenting with Purpose program here at Africanus. Ronke Olojade is a dedicated family practitioner, championing the Parenting with Purpose module of the Africaneness Community Empowerment Program. She works with Leeds City Council as a practitioner and has delivered several interventions for families. Ronke's deep passion for supporting families shines through every step of her journey. She completed the Reducing Parental Conflict training delivered by the Leeds City Council, where she explored practical strategies to reduce the impact of parental conflicts on children. She's a safeguarding trainer and has since played a vital role in supporting several intervention cases, standing as a calm, reassuring presence for families navigating challenges. Ronke is the community liaison manager for Africaneness, and she also champions the parental conflict training parent intervention program for Africaneness. So you'll agree with me that we have a distinguished panel of speakers who are here to do justice to today's conversation. Warm welcome to all our panelists and warm welcome again to all our guests who are just joining us. If you're just joining and you haven't done so already, please feel free to put in the chat area your name and tell us where you're joining us from. We would like to hear. So, without further ado, I think we'll go straight into the questions. As we said at the beginning, we'll ask the questions and we'll invite you, our panel and our audience, to use the chat area. Just tell us your name, where you're joining from, and if you have any questions, use the Q&A. Type your questions in there so that our panelists can pick up the questions as we go along. Thank you very much. I see some responses coming in already. Thank you. And so let's go right into it with the questions, and we'll start with our panelists for this one. Now, we've heard so much about the importance of fathers. We've heard so much about how very often the roles of fathers are emphasized in the discussions, but also in the research. And sometimes it almost seems like fathers aren't really doing much, or they aren't contributing as much to caregiving, and most of the contributions they're making are more from the side of providing and financial stability. And so what we want to do is to ask our panelists what they think about this. And we'll start with a very basic question of, in the context of today's world, modern parenting, modern families, and the challenges which various families are experiencing, the first question we will ask is, why does engaged fathering matter? And this is because we want to lay the foundation for exploring themes around redefining masculinity through caregiving, fatherhood and mental health, co-parenting and shared responsibility and gender equality, policy and practice, including things like parental leave, fathers taking leave, and the cultures and religious settings and community groups which either enhance or remove from the effectiveness of these policies and maybe dissuade fathers from taking advantage of these policies like parental leave. We also want to look at the role of father figures and intergenerational parenting, and we want to look at inclusive fatherhood, bearing in mind that there's no one picture of fathers. Some are single fathers, some are adoptive fathers, some are stepfathers. And so, against this backdrop, the question is, why does engaged fathering matter? And any of our panelists can start.
Okay. Maybe I'll make a start.
Okay,
Thank you.
ladies first.
Okay. That's fine. Well, for me, it takes two to tango. And I believe that from the beginning, when a baby is conceived in the womb, fathers should matter. The role of father is very important as well as the role of mother. There's no, I know that over the years, it's been like mothers, mothers, mothers. We don't see fathers. That's the assumption. But I believe that father is, in as much as there's a maternal need, there's also a paternal need. So both of them, from the beginning, where the deed is being done, and then it takes two to do it, and it's going to take two to raise the child, right from the conception. Fathers needs to begin to familiarize themselves with the baby in the womb to the point of adulthood. So through the journey, father's role is very, very crucial.
Thank you so much. And I think
That's,
Dr. Labi was trying to also make a contribution to this question. So what do you think?
yeah. Thank you very much. I think, uh, like Sister Roka said, the two are very, very important. Uh, Not just the mother alone raising the children. From my own practical experience, I went to work abroad maybe 2.5 years. I was always in and out of the country every three months. And within those time, although I was always online with the children, but that was not enough. And I could see the gap within those 2 and 3.5 years before I came back. And I knew where I picked it from and how I began to engage with the children. Because there's a gap where you can actually bond with them. Once they are 16, 18, begin to go to university, that's the end. But between the age of 0 up to 14, 15, 16, you have to build a bond with them, not just the mothers alone. And the father figure role is so vital to raising a child, whether disciplining them. I'm not talking about hitting them, but there's a way a father speak to an issue and the children just adjust. So that role cannot be replaced by anybody and cannot be performed by mothers alone. The father has to be there. And you can see the impact on the children the families where you see the mother and the father joining hands to raise the children. You can see the impact of the father figure on those children, whether be it respect, and good behavior or doing things, according to the guidelines of the society and where they work. You can always see that figure, that impact on those children. So we cannot remove it. It's so, so vital. The father figure, is so, so vital in raising the children. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. So we've had our panelists already lay the foundation about how important it is for fathers and indeed for engaged fathering right from conception all the way through to even early adulthood. And interestingly, here at Africanness, we actually work with children and young people within that age bracket you've mentioned. So children, but also young teenagers, and then I would say almost inching towards early adulthood. And what we're finding is that it helps a lot to have fathers on board in this conversation. So thank you for laying that foundation. Not sure if any other panelists wants to speak to the
Yeah,
question of.
just to add to that, apologies. I'm not sure what's happening with my image. It went off. I tried to bring it up later on, but I have to log out to come again. I hope anyone can hear me, please.
Yes, I
Yes.
can.
We can
From my
hear
own
you.
side, from my own side, parent. Yes. From my own side, parenting is challenging and is the most rewarding in the world. And involvement of father is very, very important. But unfortunately, in recent time, is to the public, it seems the father is absent. But when father is involved, it improves the mental health, the psychological well-being, and even the performance of a child. So it's very, very important to be visible, to be responsible in the life of the children, and not only for the impact on the children, it also is the stress on both parents.
Thank you so much for that. And I think you've touched on very important issues, the issue of not just the physical health, but also the mental health and the performance progression of the children themselves, but even the adults in the lives of these children. So thanks for highlighting those very important issues. I think you've taken us really nicely from that background to start exploring how engaged fathering is demonstrated within and outside the home. So I'll ask our panelists to speak to the question of how is engaged fathering demonstrated within and outside the home? And linked to that, how can men overcome the negative stereotypes around masculinity and caregiving? Because we know that sometimes it's not for want of trying, but it's because of all the stereotypes, negativity around caregiving for men. So, how do men demonstrate fathering at home and outside the home? And in cases where they are being put off by negative biases, stereotypes around masculinity and caregiving, how can they overcome these?
To start with, how is engaged fathering demonstrated within home? Uh, there was this, we work with a group of parents, and on one of these days, parents shared what a child said at school. Because when the social care involved in the life of families, there's always this tree diagram they normally give to them. Okay, home tree. What do you like at home? What do you care most? What can you remember? And the boy tried to draw mom in the kitchen, daddy on phone, while kids are just stays hang around. Daddy felt bad on that day. He said, "This is exactly what my child perceived me to be at home. I'm there physically. I believe I've been there, but I've not been connected emotionally with that child. That child believes I'm so much attached to the phone." And from that day, that father said, "I think I have to give a space for this phone. When the child is with you, you need to give that time within the home. And outside, for instance, there's all these weekend activities, sporting activities. Daddy needs to be feasible. Daddy needs to go along with his kids. Daddy needs to be out there." And I recently I saw one of these video that was posted on social media where daddy and baby, they were in the park, just daddy and babies. It was so exciting, it was so interesting, and that will also give that bond between the father and the kids. So we need to be visible, psychologically, mentally stable, and always be there. Yeah. If I'm to go to how can men overcome the negative stereotype around masculinity and caregiving, I think men are trying their little best, but this society needs to do more in terms of policy. For instance, when you look at the institutional structural bias in uh, right parenting, like what how do I put this word? Legal right to a child. Mother is automatically have that parental right, and father has to be by either registered by birth or by, so there's hindrance. So we need to start looking at where would there be balance, when would the balance be there that both sides have that right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Errol, did you want to wade in?
Yes, I've been listening to everything that everyone said, and I very much agree. Um, that idea, first of all, of negative stereotypes of masculinity and caregiving, that's not my world. I don't see that. I see a lot of positive um, examples of caregiving and masculinity. Um, the organization that I run leads dads, brings in dads every week with their preschool children, sometimes up to 8, 10 years old. And the dads are fully engaged with the kids. They lie on the floor, the kids jump on top of them. Um, they go outside, they go on the slides, they climb on the scooters, they play together. And one thing that is really strong is peer support, peer modeling. So dads see other dads reflecting a certain behavior, and they then model that behavior. So a lot of the time we're seeing dads becoming who they could be, becoming who they want to be because they see what they want to be. The challenges come when dads don't see what they want to be, and then we're presented with problems, absenteeism, abuse, negative behaviors, shouting. Who can shout the loudest in the house? It's always going to be the kids. Oh, you're laughing, Paddy, because you probably know. It's always going to be the kids. Then it doesn't matter because once you're shouting, you've lost control. It's gone. So the most important thing is to model positive stereotypes and models positive behavior and allow yourself to be in environments where you can see plenty of this.
Yeah, thank you, Errol, for the way you started, answering that question by saying the negative part of parents or fathers' involvement is not your world. And I really thank you for, putting that in front. I was going to say a word from the first question, by defining, family in an equation. Um, Typically or generally, we would define the family as the father, mother, children to make the equation balance. So when the father is not involved in caregiving, it leads us to what we could call in linear equation, looking for X. So if the father is not available or anybody in the family, if it's not doing what they are supposed to do, there will always be something missing. So going back to the question, um, in terms of how can fathers be involved in caregiving, I think the first thing is there needs to be that desire. And that desire will come from an understanding that the father is there for a purpose. And the second thing I will say is the father needs to be present. Just like Dr. Alabi said, there was a time he wasn't available for work. The gap is there. So for me, a father, first of all, must have that desire. And that desire will come from knowledge. And that knowledge will make the father to be available. And to end on this first contribution, I would say that the society and everybody involved, we should be putting forward to the people who are doing it right. Because I see that we try to push forward the narrative that fathers are not who they ought to be. But we should encourage fathers that there are people doing it right, and the society should be able to advertise those people that are doing it right so that others will know that they are not alone. Because some fathers will not want to do what they should do because they feel, oh, I am in this society, I'm the only one doing it. So if we can advertise or put forward people who are already doing what they ought to do, they will be role models to people who probably are not doing what they ought to do. And by that, they will be encouraged. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And dare I say that that's part of what we're doing at Afrikindness, trying to put forward these examples of positive examples of dads, father figures who are actually engaged and deeply involved in caring and other aspects of family life. So thank you very much for those. And a big shout out to all the fathers who are doing these things already and the father figures who are stepping in and providing an enabling environment, not just for themselves, but for others. Because as we've heard from our panelists, sometimes it's about reinforcing that positive behavior and showcasing that nurturing, that caregiving, so that for the next man down the road, he says, well, I'm not alone. It's normal. We can do this. I'm permitted to do this. So thanks to everyone who's been part of this journey. Now, the next question I'd like to ask, and perhaps I'll ask Errol, based on your experience working with lead dads, what do you see as the links between fathering and mental health and well-being for the fathers first, and perhaps for the rest of the family as well?
There's an organization called the National Childbirth Trust that has groups across the UK, and lots of people, lots of parents join them. They're supported by these groups, and they ran some research a few years back that found 1 in 10 dads is affected by postnatal depression. We know of this in mothers, postnatal depression, also called the baby blues. However, it does affect dads, and that's been clinically proven. And the NCT found 1 in 10 dads acknowledged that they're affected by this issue. It means that they feel nervous or anxious, feelings of being low, feelings of being uncomfortable with themselves, and it's connected to having a child. It's connected to traumatic births. It's connected to struggling with the whole situation. And we're finding out more and more that one of the key cures, one of the key ways to resolve this illness is their children, is the babies, is spending time with the children, is feeling that they are positive dads, they're successful in being a parent, a parenting figure, and that helps to reduce the stress, that helps to reduce the anxiety. So it's key that dads recognize that having a child will actually improve your well-being. It can improve your well-being. There are so many ways that we've seen that in terms of having a focus in life, having something greater than yourself to be responsible for. The element of sharing with your partner the journey of the child. I'm sure that many people who are already parents will remember the first night sitting over a cot, marveling at their babies, thinking, we did this, oh my gosh. And the swell of hormones that goes through your body, it's generating positive energy within you. A lot of midwives and clinicians recommend that dads in the maternity suite take off their shirts and hold the baby to their chests, and that actually generates a chemical reaction in humans, in dads specifically, that reduces the amount of testosterone and increases the amount of hormones that make you feel positive, make you feel happy. So it's key to fatherhood that you spend lots of time with your children, spend time engaged with your children, because they promote positive well-being.
Thank you very much for that, Errol. I think I was particularly struck by the statistics you shared around postpartum depression in dads. And I'd like to ask our panelists, our audience, if you can just indicate by maybe show of hands or say a yes in the chat if this is something you knew about before. The fact that postpartum depression isn't only affecting mothers, but also affecting fathers. Is this something that you had been aware of before? Yeah. So we see we've got panelists who knew about this, but I dare say that this isn't necessarily common knowledge. So it's important that you've raised this. And I think it's also a call to action for all of us as parents, as members of community, as community leaders. We even have someone saying, I've experienced it. Thank you very much for sharing. So this is a very important issue, and we all need to think about how we then provide that support Because it could be that you know a dad, a new dad who's going through this and maybe hasn't even identified it by himself. So let us just be there for each other, be kind to each other, and be supportive to each other. And perhaps some of the changes we see people exhibiting when they're at different stages of parenting, try and interrogate them, rather than just maybe give up on people or write them off for being badly behaved and things like that. But it's really telling that the same experience of fatherhood, parenting can be a source of joy and strength, but also can be a source of a challenge. But I think that's where we then come in as a community to support one and each other to go through it and enjoy the joys of parenting. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, we've got another question here. And in the meantime, I'll encourage all of us in the audience, our participants, to please feel free to share your comments, suggestions, questions. We have a dedicated Q&A button on Zoom. So if you've got any questions, feel free to use that, type in your questions, and we'll pull that forward to our panelists. So the next question that I'd like to ask is around the barriers that stand in the way of engaged fathering. We've touched on some of these, but would I think that there are a few others that perhaps we haven't explored in as much detail. And I find it interesting that we already see different perspectives. So Errol has said he's not exposed to the negative stereotypes. Some other panelists are exposed to the negative stereotypes. So within the different domains of fathering and different experiences of fathering that are out there, what would you say are some of the key barriers that stand in the way of engaged fathering?
To start with, if I may start, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, thank you very much. Having a child is a thing of joy, and even is what is in line with God's plan. Fortunately, there are social problems that could hinder the father to be engaged, especially in the area of, according to a research and data available from ONS, the UK has one of the highest rates of teenage pregnancy in Europe, and the majority of these pregnancy are unplanned, and with about half resulting in the birth of a child. As soon as that woman impregnated, there's a kind of rejection from father to engage. If it's not what the uh, family are expecting, or they expected for that to happen at that period of time. So through that rejection, it could lead to stress on the part of the young father, and definitely will affect the mental health. And before you know, it's continue to cause more stress, like Era has mentioned, in terms of rating of suicidal thoughts. When you look at the statistic in England, in Scotland, in Wales, it's obvious that men are more tends to have a suicidal thought or to even commit suicide. So that is one of the things. And secondly, we look at available research. There's imbalance in the research being carried out by academics in a way that there's a growing body of research on young mother with a limited and partial evidence on young fatherhood, in order to understand their specific needs and what are the experience, what do you think, what do they think they can be helped with, and majority of them are kind of reluctant to even speak out, to even ask for help when they were struggling in terms of financial capability, in terms of living environment, the stability, a lot of issues surround this. And I've also mentioned, because according to one of the in line with what we are doing, there are father that wish to, but at a point, if there's no good relationship between the mother and the father, that can be one of the barrier, and that can also create big gap for father to engage. And we've seen in many family court cases whereby father are willing to be part of the life of their children, but because there's an indifference, or the relationship is not smooth between the mother and the father, it's cause chaos. And like I've mentioned earlier, from the birth, mother has that parental rights, but father has to struggle, has to fight for this. And in the long run, he might get tired of fighting for having that engagement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olalikon Edede. Do we have any other? Yes, Pastor Ralph?
Yeah, unfortunately, practically, one uh, barrier I've seen is uh, the how do I put it now? People who migrated, or let me just put it as migration. We've seen a lot. In fact, a few cases where uh, people have to, you know, be in another country, and their parents, I mean, their children or family are in the, if I'll be more specific, they're in the United Kingdom. I know of a family right now, the man had to leave. Unfortunately, we can't actually control that, but I just thought to mention is migration has affected, dads. But we've seen people or dads or parents who were able to take decisions. I've seen parents, I mean, dads who resigned their jobs. Wasn't really, really convenient, but they took that risk. But there are others who, unfortunately, they can't do that. And on the other aspect of it is immigration just has not made it possible um, for them to be able to be available. I'm sure we'll talk more of, some part of it when we get to other questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Errol. Yeah.
Pastor Ralph, I run a dads group. We support dads to engage with their preschool children and older. And we, because of who I am, I look for Black people to attend the groups. I look for Black communities to be part of our organization. And with certain areas, we struggle. There's a place in Leeds called Little London where we have large numbers of African and Caribbean families. And I've been talking to groups and organizations, councillors, and even the mayor to find ways to engage the dads to join our activities. Everything we do is free. We struggle because these dads are working all the time. They're working. I don't mean that they work a lot. They're working all the time. When they get time off, they take more shifts. Um, their lives are hand to mouth. They are struggling to build their livelihoods. So it's important to have food on the table. It's important to have money in the bank. And the upside of that is that you have a home that is thriving physically. However, you don't have a home that is thriving spiritually. We find that a lot of the parents, the mums as well, could be working. The kids are on screens, and it's the digital babysitter again. So we find that finance is a barrier for positive parenting, positive father, and being a positive father model. And it's there's very few ways around this unless you go to the core, which is the person that is the employer, and say, give your employees time off to spend with their families. If unless you do that, nothing will change. These children will grow up not having spent what we would call quality time with their children, and they will find that when things get difficult in the later years, in the teenage years specifically, the the relationship between the dad and child, it won't have broken down. It will be non-existent. And then we have all sorts of problems like the challenges of toxic masculinity coming into play and beyond. So it's really important that we look at ways for all communities to be able to spend time with their parents and specifically with the dads.
Yeah, I think okay. Sister Ronke, you're raising your hand up?
Yes, I was raising my
Okay,
hand. Yes,
go on. Yeah.
I think
Yes.
we've
Just
touched. We want to
just to
bring
add a point
this.
here. Right.
Sorry, I mean bringing down this conversation down to our to ethnic minority. Like Harold said that we have to see that we've been trying to connect with some communities to come up as a father to be part of the community, and I think it has to do with we need to change our orientation from our culture that women, our mothers, are so responsible. They have the sole responsibility to look after the children, because in the past years, my daughter is 23 years. I've been to schools, playgroup. We hardly see fathers. We hardly when you go to what's it called parents' evening, it's always the mothers mostly. And when children are going to parties, it's always the mothers. Yeah, if fathers could create a bit of more time, especially in our community, and I think it has to do with cultural things that when babies are born, maybe it's like when they're doing dedications, maybe in the church, they say, oh, they give the baby to the father and the father pass it on to the mother and the mother take the responsibility. So the father is only just doing the doing the providing and sanction, authority over misbehavior and all those things. But if the fathers, the barriers, those are some of the barriers has to do with finance. Maybe they had to go and fed for the families. But regardless of that, it has to be an intentional thing. Fathers must begin to rise up more to like, okay, it's not just a women thing to do some certain things, because it has been in our culture that mothers have the sole responsibilities. And that's remained for years, for years, for years. And it's making some men to, I know there's quite a lot of men that are doing a good, fantastic job. They're doing well, they're doing fabulously with their children. My husband is an Atun father. He's been there in fact, he does more than me when it comes to raising our children. And I know some men also are doing the same, but we still have a long way to go, a long way to go. If you go to schools for parents' evening, mostly it's always the women. What are the barriers now? Maybe it's because of shift, maybe because some are home, they're tired. So those are the things that we need to consider more, that fathers are very essential, very needed, and it has to be intentional thing, regardless of immigration or whatsoever that might be going on. That these children, they're only with us, both fathers and mother, they're only with us in a space of 16, 18 years maximum. And at the end of that, that's it.
Ronke, what do you do if you're a father who's placed in a position where your choices are to put money on the table, to put food on the table, or to spend time with your child?
Wow. Everything, it has to do with priority. I know you have to put money on the table, but the time you go, what that is not that you are going to be doing 24/7 job. There's still time out of that 24/7 that you still have the time. You can still connect with this child. But what I've seen over time is, like you said, they take extra shifts, which is very common. I know you have to put money on the table, but at the end of the day, those little time, you can create that little time. that little time is very important. Even if it's just your lunch time, you can call to speak to your child. And if the child is a baby, those times that you are home, I know you want to, when you are home, I mean, let's say, for instance, the father that is working and is picking shift, but the day is off, you can decide to spend time with that child. You can do a recap of what's been going on. I don't think everybody works 24/7, 7 days a week, 30 days a month. Is there?
No, thank,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. No,
Yeah.
thank you
I
very
think
much.
Just to add to that, I just want to touch on the previous speaker mentioned migration, finance, workload. From the lived experience and from the work in the community we are doing, there's now a growing number of fathers willing to engage, willing to be involved, but they are being denied. Estimates suggest from research that between 40% and 74% of non-resident fathers in the UK lost contact with their children. And the higher incidence occurring among fathers living in a disadvantaged socio-economic circumstance. There are lots behind this. The little the father is earning is willing to spend on the child. But if there is a misunderstanding between both adults and there's lack of willingness to negotiate with the aim to focus on the needs of that child, because most time divorce, separation, people think that is the end of the relationship. But they forgot that the children are involved. How to prioritize the children, the knowledge, awareness on this, we need to do more. These are the barriers again. Thank you.
Yeah, just to put a bit of response to what Errol asked, earlier in terms of work, making money, being available. I think what will be key in certain instance is actually quality time, because if you are in a circumstance that you don't have time, then you need to make sure that the little time you have is of quality. Like someone put on the comment that some people, some dads are not even taking the extra shift. They don't have the challenge of immigration. They are in the house, but their presence is not felt. So I feel that the intentionality of overcoming those barriers now comes with what we do with the little that we have, and that will be quality.
Yeah, I think to add to that, the question that you choose between putting money on the table and relationship with your children. By the time you run after that money, and there's just a gap of maybe 6, 8 years, and that time passed, you get the money, but you already lost your child and you lost that relationship, and that cannot be rebuilt even by money. So, like Sister Runke said, I think we need to set our priorities right. And most of this extra shift they are picking is not just because of the family or the children, it's because of what they want to do. Uh, there are other engagements in the society and they're back in their country of origin. Some are building houses that they will never leave. Some are doing all manner of just showing up at the expense of the children. And I think these are issues. But I think at the root of this is a cultural issue. Maybe from the African background where we came from, the same way I, bond with my children, what my son can tell me, I can dare not speak that to my dad, growing up in Africa. So, but it starts with relationship, quality relationship, and then somebody talk about the new migrant coming in. I know it's a bit difficult, that change, the switch from one society to the other, but you just have to get used to that. I have a neighbor who is white, and I see the way they engage with the children. But people coming from Africa think, oh, my own is just to get money, just put resources down, and every other one is not part of my business. is our business, particularly in this society. There's no way you can raise any children successfully without the father being there, together with the mother. And that is what brings uh, those children out, being a good citizen to the family and to the society. So this is very important. Our priority, number one, um, um, culture. Number two, to unlearn those culture of Africa to say, oh, no, no, I don't do this. In my house, there's nothing I couldn't do when we were raising our children, even up to now. There's nothing. Some father will say, no, I can't change nappy of a child. No, no, no. That's not my own. It's for the mother. Putting masculinity or that ego. There's nothing I cannot do in the house, cleaning or anything, helping the children, bathing the children when they were at that age. Some people just thought, no, this is the ladies, this is the woman's job. No, it's our joint responsibility. Father should be involved in this. That's just my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
think you've all thrown up very important issues. So one of the things we do with at Africanus is the purposeful parenting program, and it's called purposeful parenting for a reason because we know that. I mean, I find it very interesting. How many? Well, you don't have to show your hands, but think about it. How many people attended parenting classes when they knew that they were expecting a child? Not antenatal classes, but parenting classes. And then how many people went for driving lessons before they started to drive a car? Do you see? So almost with everything, we enroll children, tutoring, driving lessons, cooking classes even exist these days. But parenting classes is like, no, 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 no. Even marriage classes exist. But parenting classes is a different thing altogether. We almost take it for granted that, oh, well, we were parented, so we can parent. But obviously, it's not like that. And one of the themes that has come out of today's conversation, and one of the things that is very fundamental to what we do at Africanus is this idea that we have to be intentional with parenting, and parenting needs to be purposeful. So it doesn't matter whether the pregnancy was planned or accidental, whatever words we want to use, it doesn't matter. But it is that once one is becoming a parent, then we have to be intentional and we have to be purposeful about it. And sometimes part of that intentionality is unlearning things. Because obviously, not everything works every time. And so we're constantly in this journey of unlearning, relearning, learning as we go along. Every child is different. Every society is different. Even in the same society, the same family, you find that the children in the family are all different. So we always need to recalibrate as parents. And that is borne out even in the ways in which fathers give care. And of course, the way that mothers give care as well. The other thing I find really important is that in all of these conversations, whether we're on the side of we need to do more work to put food on the table or less work, we always also have to remember the health of the fathers because that is very, very important. So at the end of the day, we need to prioritize the health, well-being of fathers. And if the fathers are going to be working at the expense of their health and well-being, then that in itself needs to be questioned because a father needs to be in the right space. And that means physical, mental. If you're a person of faith, spiritual, you have to be in the right place to be able to give the most of yourself. And that's part of what we all have to do. And so it means that even as people in families, we shouldn't look down on the man and say, oh, well, you're not providing as much as you should be providing. We need to be empathetic. We need to be kind. We need to be understanding that, well, we don't value the man or the father only based on how much money comes in, but we also value these other aspects of the person and we also value their health and their well-being. And if it means taking some time off, then that's what they should do. And I think linked to that, we also talked about the fact that it needs to be quality time. Now, in some of our sessions, we've said everything, literally every activity can be a bonding exercise. Something as basic as eating, you're having breakfast together, that in itself can become that quality time. So it's really about being intentional and trying to find any opportunity that presents itself. We hear people talk about reading bedtime stories. That is an example. It could be cooking together. It could even be cleaning the home together. So it's really about looking for those opportunities, whatever they may be, and you create them based on the routines in your own spaces and in your own family. So these are the kinds of things we put forward as part of our purposeful parenting and intentional parenting program within Africaners. But thanks to all of you for all the brilliant work that you're doing in this space. Now, like we said, if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to send them in. I still have lots of questions, but I'll be more than happy to hear from you as well, our participants. And okay, I think the next question is actually linked to what I've just said, and it's around how we can establish family practices, but also wider societal cultures that fully support fathers in their caregiving roles and also support children in single parent families without their fathers or father figure, because we know that that is a reality. The fact that not every family has a father, a mother in the traditional sense of it. So, how can we establish family practices and wider societal cultures that on the one hand support the fathers in their caregiving roles, and in families where the father isn't there for whatever reason, how can we support children and I guess the other parents in such families where the fathers are not there or there aren't any father figures?
Yeah, if I will just come in, there is this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Both of the fathers were teaching the author to the best of their ability. And like you said, Dr. Petty, you answer parts of this question. For me, I think learning and unlearning is the foundation to how we can give our best. Like I said, if you look at that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Rich Dad was emphasizing on certain things which were good. The the poor dad, who is the real dad, was hammering on certain things which were supposedly good, they make sense. And he was giving those teachings, those learning based on his best. But when you now look at the rich dad, he was giving his best to based on his own best. So the foundation of giving what is the best to a child is first of all make sure that you as a person you have learned. So the foundation of um answering that question for me is education. And like you have rightly said, when we want to do driving tests, we go for learning. When we want to do virtually everything, there is a learning, but parenting is absent. So the foundation for me is learning. And the next part of it, practically, what I feel is mentoring. As I thought about this question, I remember um, they say where I used to come from, they have what they call some apprenticeship. There's a people, they call them Igbo people. If you look at that mentorship, it has uh, produced so many successful people that even the general economy is depending on that mentorship. So also when we bring it to the home, even a father needs to not just be a father, but he needs to be a mentor. But before he becomes a proper mentor, he himself must and should have educated himself, because you can't give what you don't have. That's my first contribution to that question.
can I say one or two things to that? With practical things that can be done, like how to support, especially for those that are single parent, either as a single father or especially a single mother, where there's no masculine figure in the family, is to have people around you, because there's some things that men are, the role of men, I mean, the role of mothers and fathers, we've identified that is very significant. But there's some things that can be taught well by mother. There's some things that are well taught by father. I will use an example. During puberty, the boys might not be prompt to go and tell their mother what they're going through. But when there is a male, a father figure that understands that, oh, this boy is beginning to go through this stage in his life, it can begin to advise. Because I've seen a situation whereby a single mother didn't know that her son was going through puberty, and he has to learn it through a friend, and he was being taught wrongly because the friend was into something else and was like, let's just be helping ourselves because he doesn't understand his body. But if there has been a father figure in the house, an attuned father figure, an intentional father figure, an observant father figure, will have noticed or begin to teach this child, oh, your body will begin to respond to this. So, for single parents, if you happen to have there will be friends that you can trust, that maybe family friends, or maybe your families, or you can research, but it's very difficult most times for boys to really warm up to the parents and say, oh, I'm going through this. And likewise for girls, they might not want to talk about it, but if they are a single father that is raising them, so they too might need a mother figure that can help to train their children. For instance, my husband was the one that first spoke to my children about the monthly cycle. It was because he's a biology teacher, so he already prepped them. I was not even, and when they started, they actually told him first. Almost all my children, they warm up to him. And there's this thing that most boys are warm up to their father. Most boys are warm up to mothers. And that's an assumption, I believe, but he might be right, that most girls are warm up to the fathers, and boys are into more of their mothers. But for some things to be taught, it needs to be taught rightly. So for practical things to be, for some children, they need an extra help from the perspective of if they are being raised by single parents. So they can seek for help from families and friends, and like a mentor, like Pastor Ralph said, find someone that can mentor your child if you're a single parent, and that they can be trusted and the children can be opened up to.
Thank you. Errol?
I just wanted to say thanks to Ronke, and congratulations to your partner. He's leaps ahead of scores of dads that I know to be able to have that depth of conversation with their daughters about their monthly cycles. I just wanted to ask Pastor Ralph, what did you mean by unlearn? Unlearning what?
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. Based on the culture some of us come from, there are certain things that is alien to us. Some of us, like it's been said before, we just provide financially. If that is the culture you are used to, you need to know that the world is more dynamic than that. And thank God for this this program. that Africaness is organizing, is to bring that awareness that when it comes to parenting, it's not gender specific. So that's why I made that first observation that we need to unlearn. And also, if you want to go to the other aspect of learning, for instance, I just remember another, practical session or example. To a man who is a drunk, have two children. One of them was asked, "How did you become what you became?" Said, "By looking at my dad." What did he become? He became a drunk like his father. And they asked another child, the same father, the same upbringing, "How did you become what you became?" Say, "By looking at my father, I just discovered that this is not the father I want to look like. He has another father." That's why I brought up the rich dad, poor dad. And that also answers the question of if you are a single parent, it's just mentorship. For instance, the rich dad is not the biological father of the author of that book, but he was able to get the right counsel. So you cannot give what you don't have. So if you don't know enough, then you cannot give enough.
Thank you so much for that. And just as I was listening, I recall the previous question when we asked about barriers, and I guess also linked to establishing family practices and wider societal cultures that fully support engaged fathers. I think one of the barriers, and perhaps on the other side of it, one of the practices we could also explore, if we haven't mentioned this already, is the fact that we have to give space for the fathers to be themselves. And by that, I mean, we're all different, right? Whether you're the mother, you're the father, you're the child, we're all different. And that means that each of us will do the same thing in different ways. And so, one of the barriers I would say is that it's almost prescriptive in very many instances. We're saying to fathers, you need to be doing this, and this is how you need to be doing it. And even when we don't say this is how you need to be doing it, there's a certain expectation that it needs to be done in a specific way. And so when it's not done in that specific way, then the act is not appreciated. And if the act is not appreciated, it leads to the fathers withdrawing even further and saying, you know what, there's no point doing this because the last time I did it, it wasn't appreciated. And so I think that barrier we can overcome by just appreciating the deed in itself. Sometimes to say the thought is what counts. So appreciating the thoughts behind it, appreciating the effort that has gone into it, whether or not the final outcome is as we would have done it, whether you're the mother or you're the child or whoever else it is. Because I think everyone wants to be appreciated. And so I don't know if the panelists agree with me, but I would say that is one key barrier, and we need to rethink that process. Ronka is smiling and nodding.
Yeah, you're very right. Fathers, I mean, every little things actually cut across to both partners. Whatever, when it comes to raising a child, there's no perfect way of doing it. We're all learning. It's a learning curve. It's a work in progress. There's no perfect mother. There's no perfect father. We are just experimenting, to be honest. There's bound to be a lot of mistakes. So if your partner is helping, they need to be celebrated. When they make a mistake, yeah, correct them in love. And another thing I've realized is that I think sometimes when women, maybe when their partner help them, maybe with the kids, I don't know, maybe there's this good cop and bad cop thing, and then maybe the father's not been at home all the time, and then they come home and they want to overindulge the child, and the mother is like has been running crazy in the house. This child has been making them, I mean, they just need this man to come back home and help me to make the home at peace. But the first thing the dad did is to give them a bottle of drink, or maybe overindulge or pampering, definitely that mother might not take it, very well. It's like, all the things I've been doing, you even water it down when you came back home. But the thing is that every effort needs to be celebrated. And if your partner is not doing something right, correct them in love.
Thank you so much for that intervention. And kind of linked to that, we have a question which I would like the panelists to please address. And so thank you to the participants who have shared that question. And it says, how do you address a situation where a parent is courting the love of a child and in doing this is not giving attention to discipline, truth, and honesty and other virtues as well? So, what do you do as a parent if you find that the other parent or partner is actually courting the love of a child and not giving attention to discipline, truth, honesty, and other virtues?
Sorry, I just said something just now that good cop and bad cop in the family. I think I don't know if that's what that question is trying to say, because in every family, there will be somebody that the child has to respect, has to adhere to when they speak. And it normally has to do with the father. In the cultural, sorry, do you want to say something, Perry?
Yes, yes. So I was just going to say that, I mean, my sense from that question is, so what you're trying to describe, the good cop, bad cop, is like the parents agree and they say, okay, this is how we're going to do this. So there's a consensus there. Because if it's the same parents all the time being the good one and the same parents all the time being a bad one, then that's also a problem in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like this question, the parents aren't on the same page in terms of what needs to happen. So it would seem like maybe one parent is trying to be to instill discipline because a child has done something wrong, and the other parent is not reinforcing that discipline, but instead is giving rewards where the one parent doesn't think that is deserved. So how would you address that?
Wow.
I think
If the two couples have to just, oh, sorry.
you can go ahead, madam. Right.
If the two parents, if they could just sit back and see the damage effect is going to cause in the long run. Because what will happen is that the child will resent one parent, and will love one parent. And that will cause a friction between their relationship. It will cause, that's the beginning of family conflicts. Because what will happen is that parent, that child is not listening, that's not reinforcing. Yes, the child will love you, but at the end of the day, you are making that child to hate the other person, the one that is enforcing it. So both of them, for every home where there's mother and a father, they need to come together to agree. For instance, in my home, if any of my children have done something before he comes back home, I've already called my husband. I will say, this is what is happening at home. This is what I've done. So think very well when you come back home. And as I'm doing it, I realize whoever that child is already calling the dad as well. So he's like, I will always be the first person to call. So he comes back home and he's like, now, you already heard my own version of the story, because we're going to work together in this thing. Yeah, doesn't mean we agree all the time in how we're going to handle things. No. But sometimes one of us has to back down, because we want the children to like, oh, my parents are on the same page.
Thank you very much. I think Olalikon wanted to say something.
Yeah, basically, I just want to say that we have to, as a both adults, we need to think twice to consider the best interest of that child before we make any decision, or before we allow something to constitute misunderstanding between us. Because if one is trying to get that love, whatever, however it is, that will not help the child at the long run. And communicate family values. When both of them have family values, they communicate with the children. Definitely, the children will know that this is the family So there's no need of one trying to get out of way to just have that interest of that child alone. And also I wanted to make mention of something. Being a single parent, be it father, be mother, we need to speak out when we are struggling. Majority of people, they believe I can do it. I'm powerful. And that will not really help when you are not stable in mind, when you are overstressed, when you are overburdening yourself. So that will definitely tell in the level of engagement with a child. So we need to take a time out. We need to learn how to take a time out. We need to learn how to connect with the community. There are a lot of organizations, for instance, the father elites, daddy elites, all those things, it helps a lot. And lastly, I would just say it is it's rather better for that child to know the truth. What do you want that child to be in future? Because the child is at the stage of growing, learning, mirroring what I would look like, what I want to be. Definitely, we have to think as an adult that if there are things we need to change or we need to do in a different way, it is high time we need to consider that, because there's this a student, a child in school. We always say, if a teacher said, I'm going to do this, oh, please don't tell my daddy, don't tell my daddy. That fear might make daddy to say, I don't want to be in trouble. I would rather distance, or I would rather adjust, because the mother will be expecting daddy will soon be back. How does that child take that word? And now if the child get to school and said, I will be in trouble if you tell my dad, it's a kind of stereotype. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, well, just a quick contribution, because I know our time is fast spent. For me, I'll be defining, you know, uh, that scenario. Is that actually love or just spoiling a child? I think there are two different things. I think love will also include discipline. So for me, I would think that scenario may definitely not be love, as it were. You just spare the rod, and um, you spoil the child. So for me, love, there is discipline in love. So the context of love probably need to be defined.
Sorry,
Can I add
Peggy.
something to that? Just let me add something to that, please.
Okay.
Oh, I understand where you are coming from, but sometimes we need to understand the environment we are living in. We need to understand the environment we are living in. And I can tell you, if you are not apply wisdom in discipline, or you are not learning what are the acceptable discipline or reasonable discipline, that has made, like I've said, about 30 to 40 to 70% of fathers have been stopped having contact with their children in the UK. And this is still continue growing. So a lot needs to be done with the system, with the policy maker, to actually understand what's a discipline or level of discipline that can be acceptable.
Peggy, can
Yeah,
I just
yeah, please, just you see, that's why I use the word discipline. For instance, one of the things I've seen practically is, in training. For instance, my son plays football. No matter what the weather is, they're outside. That's training. Even if it's snowing, for us as parents, I feel that, oh, this is not right. I mean, I feel sometimes, that this is so. When we use the word discipline, I don't think there's any society that does not expect discipline. What is discipline? When you do the right thing for a child in love. It's still part of, I'm not saying that you should cane the child, or maltreat a child. You know, Discipline is a mild word, which we can use in training as well. So if you don't train a child, then that child definitely will not be good for the society.
I'd like to slightly change the language that's being used. Discipline can be taken in lots of different directions. If you strike a child in England, the laws changed this year. If you strike a child, if you beat a child, you can go to prison. You can be up on a charge over it. So you have to be careful when you use the word discipline. What I would use is boundaries. You have to maintain
Good.
boundaries.
Yeah.
And the boundaries mean that come rain or shine, you're doing sport.
Yeah.
Come whether it's your birthday or not, every day at 6 o'clock you do your homework. So
Yeah.
you're doing your homework. These are the boundaries that we set down, and it's irrespective of whether I love you or whether I want to treat you, give you treats. These are the boundaries that we set down, and this is what we work within. So discipline, as you call it, boundaries, it's a form of love.
That's it.
Sorry, can I just add to this, please? For the person that has the question, I mean, I want to take it from the angle of should it be a single parent? Because like Olaleko have been saying since for children to have contact with parents, that maybe the parents are not living together and the children are caught in the middle, and they go and visit each parent. There's this trend that children get caught in get caught in the middle and they play up a lot. And one parent wants to show more love. So all of them, what the children are getting is, I love you, I'm better than your mom, or I'm better than your dad. And then maybe when they go to dad, they don't get discipline, or they don't have boundaries, and they come back home, they have boundaries with mom. And the children will test your patience with that. So, but what I want to say is that parents that are single parents, when your children go for contact or family time, please don't use your children as a weapon to get at each other, because we see that cut across a lot. They use the children as a weapon, and the children get caught in the middle, and that weapon is showing more love than necessary, using gifts, buying the children's love.
Thank you so much. I think you've touched on very complex but important issues as well. So I'd like to say a big thank you to all our panelists and also to everyone who sent in their questions and made comments. We've raised a lot of conversations today have been around what can dads do, what's out there, what are the resources, and as the Africanist parenting, we're always keen to get relevant resources on any team that we cover. So you've heard a lot from Errol today. Errol is a charity manager for Leeds Dads. And perhaps we could ask Errol to say really briefly, maybe in 30 seconds or less, something about Leeds Dads, what you do, and then we'll give you some other information from an Africanist perspective. And I'm hoping that we're able to finish this in another couple of minutes or so.
Lee's Dads is a support group for dads. It's mainly focused at preschool children. That's 0 to 4, 5, but we have children up to 10 coming as well. We run different activities every weekend. Might be a soft play, might be a dads and kids walk, might be a breakfast club. We're also doing activities for dads to engage with other dads at the moment as well. So there's lots of different ways of being part of Leeds Dads. There's a very vibrant WhatsApp group. There's a membership. And everything we do is free. So info@leedsdads.org to join up. And I hope to see you all there, including the panel.
Thank you. Thank you very much. From our side as Africaners, we're very focused on purposeful parenting, as we mentioned, but also capacity building for teachers and community groups. We have a Teens Academy, which is also running. all of what we do, whether we work with parents, community leaders, or schools, is really geared towards empowering children and young people from Black and minority ethnic communities to develop a positive sense of their racial identity and to just holistically develop themselves and their well-being. And so we'll invite you to engage with us. We talked a lot about discipline and boundaries today. We have a bespoke safeguarding training which we've developed in Afrikaners in collaboration with other community leaders. I think we had about 30 community leaders as part of the co-creation process. And that safeguarding training has gotten the approval of voluntary action leads, has been endorsed by the Lord Mayor of Leeds, and has been delivered in several communities across Leeds. And it sits within the Community Empowerment Program, which also has modules on purposeful parenting, mental health, neurodiversity, understanding social services, self-care, as well as digital inclusion. So if yourself or your community is interested in any of these modules, from safeguarding to parenting with purpose, get in touch with us. I'll be more than happy to provide the support. And it's again all freely available to everyone who is interested. We're actively recruiting for community ambassadors. We had a cohort of 30, as I mentioned previously. 10 of them were recognized by the Lord Mayor of Leeds in a ceremony that held a few months ago. So we're now currently recruiting another cohort of community leaders for Leeds, but also for Bradford. We've also been in Bristol recently. So if you're interested in getting in touch, please let us know. Now, there's a QR code on the screen. And that one is really to get your feedback on today's program because we're always wanting to understand how you've received the webinar and how we can improve our services in future programs. So please scan the QR code and share your thoughts with us. It's a very short survey and we look forward to hearing from all of you. The other thing is we've got the parents resource page. So for instance, ahead of this webinar, we asked all our panelists and Errol kindly shared some tips on how fathers can get involved. You can catch up on today's webinar because we'll host the recording there, but also previous webinars and other resources from panelists. So please feel free to engage with the page, scan the QR code, it will take you there, and all the resources are freely available. Now we've got a big announcement from Afrikaners. We're hosting the first of its kind, Afrikaners Parenting and Inclusion Conference, which comes up on the 29th of August at 9 a.m. Now, this is a very important conference for us because we're really focused on the theme of breaking barriers, building bridges, and exploring the future of inclusion through trust, disruption, and collaboration. And it's not going to be a talk show. What we'll do is we'll have service providers, professional services on the ground so that families can walk in and have a conversation with them. And we'll also have bespoke one-to-one support sessions on the day. So it promises to be a very impactful program. And we've got the Lord Mayor, Councillor Dan Cohen, already confirmed as a keynote speaker. We're in the process of registering community leaders. So if you are here and you would want to be a delegate, please get in touch because all the community and faith leaders who are part of this conference will be recognized on the conference website, on the conference publicity materials as well. And it will be the start of another cohort of community empowerment programs. So please get in touch with us. And you can scan the QR code to get further information. If you have any questions afterwards, let us know, and we'll be more than happy to provide you with the support. Now, at Afrikaners, one of the things we do is to get research, because as we know, there's a lot of gaps in understanding the experiences of diverse communities. And so we're very invested in generating the much needed evidence to close that gap in knowledge. As part of the Community Empowerment Program and our mental health module, we're currently running a survey which is exploring the experiences of diverse communities with mental health provision in Leeds. And this survey, we're working in collaboration with the Leeds Mental Wellbeing Services. And the idea is that once we complete the survey, the findings of the survey will then inform a co-creation, co-production process, working with Leeds Mental Health and Wellbeing Services to ensure that their delivery is tailored to diverse communities. And so I'm hoping that all of us will make our voices heard to be part of this process. So if you haven't taken the survey already, please do so. If you have taken the survey already, spread the word, because the more people get involved, the more feedback we get, the better professionals can tailor their services to meet the needs of our communities. I would also like to share information about our next upcoming teen talk. So, as part of the Africanist Teen Academy, I was a guest on the Teen Talk, the first edition, and oh my, did they ask me questions. It's all run by teenagers, and it's really a good opportunity to get the questions directly from them. And it was questions around my personality, how it's affected my work, my leadership, my mentoring, how I grew up, why I made the choices I made. For me, I felt it was a really good opportunity to engage with the young people and also answer the questions in a very down to earth way. The next one is coming up on the 7th of August, and it's going to be us hosting Titi Oluyede, a chartered engineer. She's a very well-established engineer in her own right. And if for nothing else, we always talk about STEM and the need for especially young girls to be involved in STEM. This is one good example, role model for them to come and be part of the conversation. But also, I think it's very empowering that they will see their own peers being part of it and leading and driving the conversation on the day. So if you know young people between the ages of 10 and 16, invite them to register. We've had the young people hosting, they've also been designing the flyers. So it's been a very good learning experience for them in listening, in teamwork, collaboration, public speaking. And we want as many young people as possible to benefit from this opportunity. So please get them involved in this. And I think with that, I've run through all the main things I would want to share with you. Otherwise, the only thing left is to say, please follow us on social media. We're very active. Afrikaners, we're very sociable. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter. Just follow us, join us, and we'll be more than happy to connect with you. And with that, a very big thank you to all of you. I'm mindful that we started slightly behind schedule and are also closing slightly later than planned. But thank you so much for staying with us. I hope you found the session rewarding. For me, it's been a rewarding conversation. And I look forward to seeing one and all of you at the conference and future events as well. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest
Thank
of
you
your
so much,
evening,
everyone.
Thank
afternoon,
you.
day.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
Thank you.
evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you.